Hi, this is Jenny Dye with Mormon Life Hacker, and tonight we are talking live with Daren Smith. Thank you for joining us, Daren.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a little bit, just a little bit about Daren, really quickly. Daren is a film producer and writer, and the co-founder of Telecases Entertainment, a film company located in. Born and raised in California, Daren moved to Utah to attend college at BYU in Provo. He served a 2-year mission for the church in Washington, D.C., came back to Utah to finish. He lives and works still in Provo, Utah, and from running sound at Velour Live Music Gallery and the Roof to presenting at 1 Million Cups and YouTuber meetups, producing numerous short films, documentaries, and other narrative projects, to helping Mayor John national campaign and the new political web series Zion. That's a lot. About a new project, the Daily Mormon email newsletter.
Yeah.
So, wow. Thanks a lot, Daren. You are a busy guy. So, let's basics. What is Daily Mormon?
So the Daily Mormon is a email newsletter that shows up in your inbox every morning before you wake up. So that's what it is. But what it really is a really easy way to get your scripture study in every day in a really short, easy amount of time.
But how easy are we talking here?
How easy? Well, you sign up.
How much time are you saving on my daily scripture study?
Yeah, well, I mean, you sign up once and then it shows up every day, as long as I keep writing them. So that I wanted to make it as easy as possible. So I went through and even tested the landing page and the look and the colors and all of that stuff with a group of friends to make it as seamless and easy as possible. And I found a great app that can deliver it every morning. And as people add their emails, it starts from the beginning and they start getting the emails on a daily basis. So I wanted to do that instead of like a social media version, because that way you'll never miss it. It's always going to show up in your inbox. I have it set up so that whether you're on East Coast or West Coast or overseas, it'll show up in your inbox at 5 a.m. your time. So hopefully, unless you're a super early bird, it'll be there ready, waiting for you, so that that can be the first thing you see when you wake up instead of whatever is happening on social media for the day.
Off local time, like just straight across the board.
Sorry, you dropped out. Say it again.
That's right, 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Straight across. That's
if
great.
you really want to, you can wake up early so that you get it right at 5 a.m. But, I mean, it's totally fine if you sleep until 8 or 9. And
That's awesome. So where are you from?
The idea came from, so last year, I serve as the gospel doctrine teacher in my ward. And last year, as most of the audience will know, we were studying the Book of Mormon. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It had been a while, honestly, since I had kind of read through the Book of Mormon from start to finish. And so I was like really looking forward to diving in and doing like daily scripture study and being able to prepare lessons and then get in front of a group of people and put those ideas out there and then get feedback and have the Spirit testify of everything. Like, I loved every minute of it. But at the end of last year, coming into 2017, where we were going to transition to studying the Doctrine and Covenants, I had this really irrational fear, I think, but I had this fear that I and my class were just going to stop reading the Book of Mormon cold turkey. And I didn't want that to happen because the year had been so great of studying and reading every day. And so I wanted to continue that. And so the first thing I did was I made a promise to myself that I was going to read through the Book of Mormon again from start to finish, right at the beginning of this year. And I wanted to go through and when I was teaching the lessons last year, I was noticing, or I had noticed that there were these verses that are different than other verses. I call them or I started calling them like statement verses or principle verses or even promise verses. So instead of like my Father dwelt in a tent, it was, if you repent, you shall not perish. There was like a promise and a blessing that came along with that. And so what I did, excuse the props, but I went to the BYU bookstore of all places, and I got a whole bunch of looks because I still have facial hair. But I went and I bought like one of these, paperback versions of the Book of Mormon, so I had a clean slate to work from, and I bought a blue highlighter. And I literally went through, every morning I would read a chapter or two, and I would go in and I would literally just in blue highlight those verses. And it didn't take very long for me to realize that there were a lot of those verses in the scriptures. And so I kept reading, kept marking, and then I love spreadsheets. Maybe you know that about me, Jenny, but I'm weird like that. And so as soon as I finished the Book of Mormon, it took me about 3 months to get through it, start to finish with all the highlighting. But I wanted to go in and really kind of dive in on this idea. So I started putting them into a writing app that I use called Scrivener. And I wanted to just start categorizing them and organizing them and counting them and seeing how many verses there were. And I found out that there were over 300 of these promise or principle or statement verses in the Book of Mormon. And to me, that was like a lot. And I also realized that there were common themes, common categories I could put them in. I found over 41 different categories that I could place these verses in. So my first instinct was a weird one, but because I do all these different things, I was like, this is a book. I need to write this book. It's the book I've been looking for. It's a self-help book based on promises and principles of the Book of Mormon. But then I realized that's going to take a while, and I want to share all this information. And so I was like, okay, well, what I could do then is take every single one of these verses and send them out in an email every single day, because that's at least 300 days worth of content. Hopefully by then I'll have a book ready, and then I can, tell people about the book if you want to keep reading, or you could just start the email series over, or maybe I'll go into the Doctrine and Covenants. I don't know. But that's where the idea came from. That was my long-winded answer version of it. But it came out of a desire to keep reading the Book of Mormon, and then out of that, the desire to share what I found with as many people as I could.
What's interesting to me about that description is that you had this desire to in abundance, and so the way that you're showing guys, it's not sound, but in a really good to share all the treasures that you keep finding. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Calling?
Oh, I'm catching 1 out of every 10 words. Maybe you can send me questions through the chat or something, because I'm not hearing.
Is that still your calling?
Yes, I'm still currently the gospel doctrine teacher and loving it. I'm awesome. Weird because I trade off with another teacher. There's actually 4 gospel doctrine teachers in 2 classes in our ward. And I trade off with another teacher. And I feel sad every time I don't get to teach, because I just love that setting of being able to talk about the gospel and having the Spirit there and everybody sharing and giving their insight and having it reinforced. It's just such an amazing thing. I think part of me wanted to kind of recreate that on a daily basis.
So maybe you can see the next question is, why have you chosen this email format? You might be the first thing that you see online when you, why email?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about it, part of me in my entrepreneur brain was thinking, okay, well, what's the best way to reach the most people the most effectively and the most consistently? So I honestly thought about Instagram, and I thought about Twitter, and I thought about Facebook, and even text messaging. And and obviously email as well. And what I realized was I didn't want this to be subject to an algorithm. I didn't want people to sign up or follow a page or follow a profile and then go days and days without seeing any content because the algorithm deemed it not worthy to be rising to the top of their feed, or maybe they didn't log on for that day or didn't check Twitter that day and they missed it. And that felt like a thing I didn't want to compromise on. And so as much as I'm trying to promote this and share it with people, like I've really limited the amount of social channels that you can interact with it on, because I want people to go to the email and be able to get it every single day, no matter what. And so I use an email app called Drip that literally, I'm 35 or 36 emails in, but if you sign up tonight or tomorrow, you'll get email number 1, and then tomorrow number 2, and then the day after that, number 3. And so it also made it a little bit easier for me because now I'm a month ahead of whoever signs up tomorrow. And in a year, I'll be a year ahead of whoever signs up that day. And so it took a little bit of the pressure off of me. I've tried blogging in the past on a daily basis, and it's hard. And so I've been trying to do 1 or 2 emails a day to try to stay ahead. But the real reason I stuck with email and chose email was I wanted to make sure that people could get the content and it was delivered to them in an easy way, as opposed to them having to go seek it out, which was, to me, felt like a thing that could make it less effective and less impactful.
Got it. Awesome. So, is Daily Mormon different from other daily inspirational methods?
Yeah. So I'll admit, when I started writing the emails and launching it, I didn't even check to see if there were other people or other platforms or other versions of this. So for all I know now, there could be hundreds of these kind of daily email things that are circulating. Luckily, I had a couple of friends that I was testing the idea out with, and the initial emails was sending them to them, and they mentioned like, oh, this reminds me of this thing I found on Instagram. So there's one called Book of Mormon 365, which they're taking a chunk of scripture every single day and releasing it on Instagram. And so if you see that every day, by the end of the year, you'll have read the Book of Mormon in its entirety, which I think is a cool idea. But again, I wanted to not be beholden to any algorithmic weirdness. I wanted to make sure people could get it every day. I think there's a couple other emails and stuff. So the big thing with mine that I think sets it apart is that I'm not going verse by verse throughout the Book of Mormon. I am going somewhat chronologically based on the highlights that I found and the things I wanted to put out through the email. But the big thing is just the format. So it's short. You can consume most of the emails in 2 to 5 minutes. And in an email, you get a scripture, sometimes even a part of a scripture. So it's just the pertinent, I say that in quotation marks because the entire scriptures are pertinent, but the pertinent to me part. And so you get the scripture and a little bit of context or commentary from me. And then I always include questions to ponder. And so to me, that's the life hack, if I can use your guys' term, is that you're able to take your half hour of scripture study a day that we're supposed to be doing, and you're compressing it into 5 minutes of actual reading. But then with those questions to ponder, that sticks with you throughout the rest of the day. So you're really getting a lot more out of it because you're actually thinking about those things. And because it's the first thing in your mind, in front of your eyeballs in the morning, I think it sticks with you better than if you just glance as you're scrolling through your social feeds. And then after about a week or two of the emails, people were asking for even more. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to make the emails longer, but I added on these daily challenges. And so if you really want to do something else, sometimes it's or do something that makes it so that you can take it a step further if you really want.
Got it. Awesome. That leads to my next question, which is, what has the feedback been? So far you've gotten a lot of people asking for more.
Yeah. Yeah, the feedback has been incredible, honestly. I've done a lot of these kind of things. I wrote a book 4 or 5 years ago, which was about independent film sound, so not pertinent to this audience at all. But I wrote a book and launched it to crickets. I had 5 people order it the first day maybe, and I think I've sold, less than 100 copies. I did sell a copy yesterday, though, which was fun. But... so I've written a book. I've done numerous blogs and websites. I'm one of those people that come up with ideas, and I'm quick to execute on the initial getting it out there and in front of people. But then I don't give it enough time. I give up if it doesn't get, a certain amount of interaction or likes or whatever it is. And so I have a graveyard of dead blogs that I've started and killed off. And so, yeah, I wanted this one to be different. And so I went about it a different way. And I did some iterations and some testing and some validation up front to make sure it was something that people would actually want and react to. And not just my wife, who loves everything I do, and not just my in-laws and stuff, but actually going out to my friends who I was a little nervous to reach out to because they only knew me because of film or because of the entrepreneur circles or the music scene that I'm in. And so I sent it to them because I knew they were Mormon, but I didn't know how active, and I didn't know how they would react to me pushing, gospel doctrine on them into their inbox. But I have had more response from this than anything else I've done. I'm getting emails from people I haven't talked to in years, and they're, saying how great it is and how much they like it. And it's fun because I can see what email they're responding to, and if they're a couple days in or a few weeks in, and it's just been really, really cool to see. And for those that are kind of nerdy like me and like the analytics side, the other email lists that I have and that I've put out that have, a couple hundred people on them will have open rates of 15 to 30%, which is okay. That's industry standard, but there's nothing great about that number. But this one, consistently, 2 out of every 3 people are opening the emails. So 60, 70% of every email that I send out is being read by the audience, which to me means that it's resonating and that it's, even the people that aren't responding directly and saying, kind words, it means a lot to me that they're opening it and that they're reading it and that it's getting into their lives every day.
Awesome. Do you think that, you mentioned this before, do you think that you will go on to other books of scripture or maybe even do kind of a conference review series of emails, or will you stick with the Book of Mormon? Is that your plan for right now?
Yeah, I've thought about that a couple of times. I try not to think about it too much because I've got a lot on my plate just with this. But the honest answer is I don't know. What I can definitely say is, and I'm pretty upfront with it in what I talk to people, and in the very first email you get, if you go and sign up, it's just dailymormon.email. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but if you go to the website, sign up, instantly you're going to get an email from me that says, this is what it is, this is how I came up with the idea, and I'm also writing a book. And so you may get an email or 2 from me over the next year promoting my book. So I hope you're okay with that. But so far, I know I have 300 or so verses, and that means, almost a year's worth of content that I can put out on a daily basis. Hopefully within those 300 days, I can finish the book. And then that's a pretty easy thing for people to go from the email list. If you want more context, if you want it in a different framing device, you can read the book. So it has different commentary than what you're receiving on a daily basis, and more in depth, and more about the topics and the keywords, like the way that I've categorized everything together, as opposed to chronologically. But I think it's going to be pretty simple to go into Doctrine and Covenants. I think there's a lot of verses that fit the same bill. And I've thought about, okay, well, do I integrate some conference stuff in between? The hard part about that, just to, again, get a little nerdy, is that it's a drip campaign, and so it's automatically set up to go every day from day one on. So if someone signs up on Saturday of General Conference, they may not see those emails for 3 months, and then it's like, wait, why are you sending them? So I can definitely send specific one-off emails to people, but I don't want to necessarily double up. And so what I think might happen after that is I can send out a blast and then make it a new email that's at the end of the chain, so to speak. But I definitely think there's an infinite amount of content to be produced in this idea for this email newsletter. Whether or not I'm still writing an email a day 2-3 years from now, I don't know. I may just make it really easy when they hit the end that there's a button that says start over, and then you starts over. Because hopefully by then you can go back to First Nephi chapter 2 again, and you're like, okay, I'm ready, and it's fresh, and it not that I studied it 2 weeks ago and he's just rehashing the same stuff. So that's where I'm at right now.
I like it. That's good. That's great. So we have a comment. Randy, it looks like Bacchus. He says, I really enjoy the simplicity on the email and get my daily script. So
Randy is one of the coolest reactions. So Randy Bacchus, it seems weird, or feels weird for me to say Randy Bacchus, because he's Bishop Bacchus to me. He was my bishop when I was growing up in Sacramento. When I was in my teenage years, he and his daughter Brianna were, not he and his daughter, me and his daughter Brianna were really good friends through junior high and high school. And I was going through and sent a link to a ton of people through Facebook Messenger, which just to me felt like an easy way to hit all of my LDS friends online. And he responded, and we caught up for a little bit, but he's been, leaving awesome messages like this on a fairly regular basis. And to me, that's almost like that exceeds the bar that I had for myself. If my old bishop is reading stuff that I'm putting out that's gospel-based, I feel like I'm doing an okay job. So thanks for watching and for your comments. It really means a lot.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Cheers, Randy, Bishop. How can people, the service, is it free? Is this something that people are paying for? How do people find you? How do they?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. It is free. It's absolutely free. It goes directly to your email. And so you have to put in your email at some point in order to get it into your inbox. So the easiest way, there's probably a link on this video, or if not, I'll make sure that I attach it at some point. But basically, you can go directly to the website. It's just a landing page, so there's not really a lot of content on the site. It's not a blog or anything, but the address is dailymormon.email. And so that's confusing to some people. They want to go .com.email or .email.com. No, it's dailymormon.email. So email is the end of the URL there. And it's pretty simple. It just says, this is what it is, put in your email, and then you'll get an email right away to start it off. If that doesn't work for you, or if you don't like that option, you can always send an email directly to me. If you just email info@dailymormon.email, that goes directly to me, and I can add you manually. So just leave me a message that says, please add me to the list, and I will do that. If you'd like, if it's even easier, you can leave a comment on this video or send me a comment directly here on Facebook or anywhere online and just say, hey, please add me. Here's my email address. That's totally acceptable as well. So you can't really find Daily Mormon on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere like that. I've thought about it, but I don't know. I think I may have created some of the accounts just to park on them, but there's no content there. But if you look for me, I'm at Daren T. Smith pretty much everywhere on the internet. So you can send me a tweet I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Those are probably the two that I spend the most time on. I'm not on Facebook a lot, but you can send me a message. It may just be a day or two until I get back to you there. But or just shoot me an email, info@dailymormon.email.
Very good. Okay, we've included that information too, and make sure everyone to follow your Twitter handle.
Yeah, @Daren T. Smith. And that's DAR.
Award-winning.
Award-winning tweets, yes. There's definitely less gospel-centric stuff, more what I've called helpful snark on Twitter. So I tend to be a little bit more loose on that platform, mainly because my family is not on there. So don't be alarmed. There's nothing bad. But, you know, it's a different place than the Daily Mormon email.
Yes, but you're very funny, you're very smart, you're very clever. And yes, Daren, Daren T. Smith is how to find you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. For joining us, it's Daily Mormon, a daily little snippet of easily digestible scripture study in your email inbox at 5 a.m. Go to email to sign up. Yes?
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you, Daren. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat with you.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
Hey, you too.
All right. Thanks.